What's going on? What's going on, team? Welcome back to another week. Welcome back to another weekly stock talk. In this video, what we'll be doing, we're going to be taking a look at the S&P 500, which is SPY. We'll also be taking a look at the Nasdaq, which is /NQ, and we'll be taking a look at all the opportunities that we see value in throughout this week that we could possibly take advantage of. My name is Xander with Phaser Trading Academy. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe. We do these videos every single week. And if you find value in this video and learn something or find a great pick for yourself, make sure to smash that thumbs up button and share this video with a friend so that they can have these same opportunities throughout this week. So let's go ahead and jump into it. The first thing we're going to be taking a look at is the SPY, which is SPY. So that's the S&P 500. What we've been doing is we've been trading in this channel here for some time now, basically since November of last year. We're still trading in this channel. We ended up dipping down here on the 21st of last month. We dipped down. We ended up bouncing at the support level as well as this bottom trend line. We ended up bouncing, recovered from that bounce, broke through this resistance level, and we have been continuing up to the upside. On Wednesday of last week, we had a little bit of a pullback. We ended up pulling back close to near the support level. That also lines up here with the SMA line, the 180-day SMA line. So we ended up pulling back, ended up finding support bouncing at this level, and we ended up recovering to 437.5 today. So we're still within this channel. That's what we're going to be looking at. A lot of questions arise as to, hey, are we in a correction? Should we be worried? Well, it really depends, right? So we're paying attention to this channel. Where you would want to start getting worried about a larger market correction would be if we broke this bottom trend line, which means we're breaking out of this trend that we're currently in, right? That would be a market pullback, a bigger market pullback, right? So these little ones, you know, they're healthy. Not to really worry about. If they don't happen, that's when you should be concerned about it. But when these happen, it's fairly healthy for a market to pull back a little bit, especially when it's been on a run for almost a week and a half or 2 weeks here. And this last span since the end of last month into the new month, right? So this healthy little pullback that we saw isn't really an issue unless you're not sized in properly into your positions. And that can really hurt you just for that 24-hour or 48-hour period when it does pull back. A lot of people end up falling into panic and start worrying about what's going on with their portfolio or with their trades. So, you know, be cautious when you're sizing in and the sizing that you have in each position. However, you know, if a pullback such as this happens, it's not to really worry about. Same thing here. You know, we ended up seeing a pullback, ended up bouncing at the support, right? If we broke this support level, started heading lower, then you'd be wanting to worry about, you know, potentially larger market correction. But little things like this, not to worry about. We ended up having this quite some time now, a few times. So that's what's going on here with the S&P 500. We are making higher highs. We are approaching overbought levels areas. Every time we end up doing that, we approached it, ended up pulling back, approached it, ended up pulling back. So now we are approaching it once again. So make sure that, you know, you're fairly cautious with the fact that, you know, this isn't going to continue to run up higher and higher just without no bounds, right? So this is going to have a little bit of a pullback, which is inevitably going to affect the rest of the market as well, right? The rest of the stocks. So that's what's going on with the S&P 500. Make sure you're paying attention to it, MACD. You know, we are starting to change color here at the bottom. So, you know, potentially we might start seeing a little bit of a pullback happen here. I don't know if it would be something as big as this that we saw on Wednesday to Thursday of last week. However, you know, you never know, right? It could come down all the way down to the support level. So just be aware, be ready, and be watching these EMA indicators on the stocks or the tickers that you're going to be trading throughout the week or throughout the next 2 weeks, right? So that's what's going on with the S&P 500. Let's take a look at the Nasdaq /NQ. So with the Nasdaq, we've had a fairly similar, you know, layout as to the S&P 500. However, you know, it's a little bit different with the Nasdaq. We were trading in this channel here for some time and we ended up breaking out of this channel, right? We broke above this resistance and then we created this new channel that we're currently trading in, right? So let's go ahead and zoom into it so that you guys can see a little bit better. So we broke out of this resistance here back at the beginning of last month, right? And so we broke above it and we ended up trading in this channel for the last month, basically, right? So this is going to be what you're going to want to be watching along with the S&P 500 is what happens with this channel, right? Are we going to break higher or are we going to every time we approach this top resistance level, make sure that you're prepared for a potential healthy market pullback or a buying opportunity, right? When market's going to be pulling back, a lot of stocks are going to pull back, which is going to create a great buying opportunity, right? Or it might be a time for a correction, a bigger correction, right? And if we break out of this support level here at the bottom, that's going to be reason to be concerned, and this is probably going to align, this setup and this break higher or lower is probably going to align with the S&P 500 and the way that chart looks as well. So they're going to play out pretty similarly depending on what's going on with the market, right? So that's what's going on with those two. Let's go ahead and dive into some of the opportunities. We have some great opportunities this week. However, with the market pushing up higher and higher week over week, it's becoming a little bit tougher to find really, really oversold opportunities, right? So that being said, though, we are still finding great opportunities. So I'm going to have a list. I'm going to break down a list of opportunities for you guys. And then out of those, I recommend that each week you look for approximately 3 or 4 or maybe 5 stocks that you're going to focus in on throughout that week, right? Don't be all over the place. Choose 4 or 5 opportunities or stocks or tickers that you're very interested in and that you believe meet your criteria and you see the most value in, right? And then go off of that throughout that entire week. Don't worry about missing out on anything. Next week's another week. Next week, we're going to have different opportunities. So this week, choose 4, 3, 4, 5 maybe, and then really just focus on those throughout the week and forget about everything else, right? So let's go ahead and dive into the first one that we're going to be taking a look at. The first one's going to be NIO, NIO. So this one here, we ended up pulling back, not super oversold. We were oversold here when we approached I believe it was on Wednesday when the market pulled back. We ended up getting a great oversold opportunity. And if you would have jumped onto that time and paid attention to NIO at that time, you would be able to catch this because we ended up bouncing off not only the support, but also the SMA level. And then we ended up pushing up to the upside, right? And so we are currently, around 46 on the RSI. We aren't, I wouldn't say very oversold, but we're not very overbought. We're somewhere in the middle, right? So what we're paying attention to here is we're going to be paying attention to levels, right? And we're also going to be paying attention to the EMA, right? So the first thing I want to know is, we ended up having this sell-off and we've been fairly bearish on NIO for the last, I would say, mid-February till about, the end of May. Right. And the reason for that is because we were trending below this SMA line, right? This green line right here is the SMA line, 180-day SMA line. When something's trending below that, it usually means it's going to be selling off, which is exactly what we've been seeing. Obviously, we've had, intraday opportunities to make some money here. However, as far as, trending to the upside and reversing, trend in the big picture, right? We haven't really seen that up until the end of May, right? At the end of May, we ended up breaking above this SMA line. And we have been trending to the upside ever since. If we look back in, November, December, January, February, we see that as long as we're above the SMA line, we're going to be going to the upside, and we find SMA as support, right? So that's what we've been seeing, right? And then we ended up breaking below it, and then we ended up selling off, and now we broke above it again, and now we're heading back up to the upside. So because we are broken up to the upside, we start seeing that, because we ended up bouncing at the support when we ended up finding support on the SMA line, there's reason to believe that this potentially might be rebounding back to at least this resistance level up here at 55, 58. So that's what we're going to be paying attention to throughout this week. Ideally, we're looking for a break above this blue line, which is the EMA line. Once we see a break above that, that's going to be our indication of a potential entry. And then we're going to be looking for that to be an exit around 55, 58, right? So that's because that used to be a resistance level. So that's what we're paying attention to here with NIO. So that's the opportunity here. We still have plenty of room. The potential for profit here on this one is going to be, if we're measuring from the EMA, we're looking at about 20%, 20%, which is not bad, right? And if we're looking for a risk, we're going to be looking at approximately, I would say probably with a 20% profit potential, you'd probably be looking for something about, 3 or 4%. So this is about 5%, so you be the judge of that if that's something that you're interested in or not, right? So that's going to be NIO. The next one that we're going to be taking a look at is going to be, BAC, BAC, and this is Bank of America. So we've had this on watch for some time now. We've been watching the financial financial stocks for some time now. I believe it's been like 2-3 weeks since we've been talking about it. We started watching them after this pullback here that we ended up seeing, and I think it was 2 weeks ago. And so we've ended up seeing some recovery here. We ended up getting rejected by this SMA line, ended up pulling back to that same support level that we ended up having it down here. So ended up pulling back down to the support level, ended up bouncing on the support level again. Now we're approaching the SMA level again. We do have earnings coming up here on the 14th. So make sure that you're paying attention to those. I would not trade into earnings. I would trade after earnings, but just be aware and be prepared for whatever happens on earnings, because this can go either way. Even if it's good news, we've talked about this before. If it's good news, it could still go down, right? So that's what we're waiting for, it to break to the upside. That's going to be BAC. Similar stocks to that is going to be USB. Very similar setup here. Once again, very similar to BAC. And then another one that's going to be similar to that is going to be BK, which is Bank of New York. Very similar as well, approaching SMA level. So pay attention to those three. That's going to be the three that I'm paying attention to. And the RSI and the MACD setups are very similar to all of those. Once again, on the 15th, we have earnings on this one. And on the previous one, we have earnings on, it's either the 14th or 15th. So on the 15th as well. So those are the three that we're going to be paying attention to with the financial sector. So throughout this week, obviously, there's going to be either a push to the upside or downside. So pay attention to these as well. Those are the ones that I'm paying attention to throughout this week. The next one I'm going to be taking a look at is AMD. This one here, like I said, with the market so high up, the pullback that we ended up seeing is we're obviously seeing a great opportunity. However, they're not, I wouldn't say A+ oversold setups. So, take this all, make sure that you're evaluating this from your analytical perspective, right? If this is something that you see value in, I'm just here to present you with the opportunities, show you what I'm watching, and then you decide out of all of these stocks, which ones that you find the most interesting and you see the most potential in, right? Make sure you're doing fundamental research, reading news, reading articles about these companies, especially after you decide on which ones you're going to be focusing on. So similarly, we ended up seeing a pullback here on Wednesday to Thursday. We ended up coming down to the support level here at approximately 86.40, ended up bouncing, and we did break the EMA. However, we ended up pretty much consolidating at that point. The MACD is starting to look like we're coming into a reversal. We have plenty of room to run on the RSI. We're about 50.48.50. And once again, we're paying attention to the EMA for a break to the upside. We're going to be looking for a move from current price levels, which is 90.75, 90.80 to approximately 94. That's going to be our profit potential here. We're looking at about 3.6%, and obviously managing risk at probably 1%, 2% on this one. You don't want to have this too out there. However, it's obviously there, the opportunity's there, and we can definitely potentially recover up to this previous resistance level. The next one that we're going to be taking a look at is going to be XOM. This one has been doing very well over the last couple of weeks. Pushing up, pushing up, pushing up. We ended up having this SMA as support. We ended up pushing up, and then we ended up pulling back here. At the end of last week, we ended up pulling back, right? So we ended up dropping a little bit below the SMA level, but we've seen this before and we ended up recovering. Overall, though, if we're taking a look at the big picture, we have been just trending here with the SMA line. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this recover. Not any huge profit potentials, but 64. So approximately 5.74%. Mostly what's interesting about this one is the fact that the pattern is so stable and so consistent. So this one's very easy to predict, right? Unless there's a serious market correction happening, then we'll obviously see a nice big pullback on this one. But however, as of right now, this one's very attractive and interesting, very stable, one to pay attention to and take advantage of if you see value in this one, right? Plenty of room to run on the RSI before we become overbought. Looking fairly strong here on the MACD. And, if we break the SMA line here, we are, I believe, above the EMA line already. Let's go ahead and take a look here. Yeah, we are above the EMA line here. We are above this blue line here. So if we break above the SMA line tomorrow, that's going to be a little bit more support as to the theory of it recovering back up to 64.93 and consistently just continuing to head up to the upside. So that's what I'm paying attention to with XOM. The next one's going to be PINS. This one's Pinterest. huge pullback today. We ended up, this one became the most oversold that I've, ended up finding throughout the watch list. So we ended up seeing a nice pullback here. Ideally we would want to see a bounce here on the SMA line. So nothing crazy, no crazy ideas on this one, but definitely one to pay attention to, just because we've seen a pullback of about almost 10% on this one just in the span of the last 3-4 days. So one to definitely pay attention to, because this one might have a great recovery. We've seen a lot of strong, bullish movement here over the last few, I would say weeks, a couple of weeks. It's been about a month. And then we ended up seeing this 10% pullback. So we could pull back down to this SMA level here, which would also align with the strong volume profile level approximately. So that would be approximately 69.18. We're currently at 73.33. So let's see what happens tomorrow. If we're going to start seeing a green bullish recovery here tomorrow, definitely one to take advantage of, especially if we break the EMA. Even from current price points to the EMA to the previous highs, we're looking at about a 7% profit potential. So make sure to wait for a break above the EMA to make sure that you're getting in when it's actually recovering, right? Because it's still, like I said, very well head lower, right? So pay attention to that. That's what I'm paying attention to. We are looking fairly oversold, but MACD is looking like we're still selling off. So I would just pay attention to this one throughout the week and see where it goes. If it continues to sell off, that's just presenting a better opportunity for us to take advantage of maybe a few days later or next week even. So add this one to your watch list. Pay attention to this one. The next one that we're going to be taking a look at is Tiva, T-E-V-A, Tiva Pharmaceutical. So this one, big picture, let's take a look at the big picture. Not very hot. However, the pullback that we ended up seeing, this strong pullback that we've been seeing for the last, I would say probably since the beginning of the month. It's been about a month. We've just seen this thing selling off. And then today we just recently saw a break above the EMA. So that might be similar to this setup here, that we break above it and then we continue lower, or we can break above it and potentially start heading up to the upside. This one you're going to want to do some fundamental research on, read up on the articles, what's going on with the company. However, with a pullback this size, it's approximately 20%. It's a pharmaceutical, so I'm not surprised that it pulled back this much. However, we had lows of about 844 down here, and we're at about 935. So we're fairly close to where we used to be back in November of last year. So potentially one to take advantage of if we even recover to the SMA line, which would be a strong volume profile level. That's about 9.6%. And then obviously managing risk probably here at $9.09, I would say. So that would probably be about 3%. So a 3 to 10, not a bad setup. Just pay attention to it and make sure that you're entering at a proper, at a proper time, meaning on the break and confirmation of the EMA. And also make sure you're paying attention to size. We do have plenty of room here to run on the RSI, as well as the MACD is looking fairly good. However, we do have earnings coming up here on the 28th, so closer to the end of the month. So pay attention to this. This could go either way, right? Last time we had this, we ended up seeing a pullback. Last time we had this, we ended up seeing a pullback. So we ended up seeing a pullback back in, what was it, November as well. Earnings happened, we had a pullback, and now we're having this same situation. We're having earnings, so you could only assume that this might just pull back on earnings. However, pay attention to this one, because between now and earnings, there might be a potential move to the upside. Definitely one that I'm watching throughout this week, potentially next week as well. The next one that we're going to be looking at is going to be Pton. So Pton, very similar to some of the other setups that we've had. The pullback that we've been seeing, we ended up getting rejected here at this resistance level that we formed back here, and also back here. So basically since March, we had March, and then we had April, and then we ended up seeing the same resistance playing out in June, July. So make sure that you're aware that there's this resistance. But however, what we're going to be taking a look at is, once again, we've been trending below this SMA level. We just broke above it, and now we're trading above it, right? So now we're looking for SMA to be support, because it used to be resistance. So we're looking for this to be support. We're looking at 110.97. We're currently at about 120. So potentially might come down to approximately 110. So for the best entry, so make sure you're watching size if you are looking to get into this. We also have a resistance. We're fairly close to that resistance. And that 110 level would also align with the volume profile level, which means there's a lot of demand at that point, at that price point, right? So what we're going to be looking for is, potentially drop down to this this oversold level here on the RSI and a potential move back up to this resistance. So that's what we're going to be paying attention to with PTON. So the next one we're going to look at is NNDM. So NNDM, what's interesting about this one, the reason it caught my eye is we are looking fairly good. Like we're going to be pushing up here on the RSI, right? So on the RSI, what we're going to be taking a look at is we have plenty of room to run. We're about 37. We haven't broken. We did end up breaking above this SMA level here. Very similar setup to the fact that trading above the SMA, trending up, trending below the SMA, trending to the downside. We just broke above it. We might be just faking out to the downside and potentially recovering back up to here. So that's about a 23% profit potential. However, we aren't looking too hot here on the MACD. However, this could just be the beginning of the trend to the upside. What's attractive here is the fact that we were oversold here not too long ago, 2 days ago, 3 days ago, and we are still trending to the upside. We're looking fairly good on the RSI. I would follow up with this one with the fundamentals, see what's going on with the fundamental side of this stock, and see which one makes the most sense. Is it going to be heading closer to the upside, or is this potentially just a continuation of the sell-off? Because this could just be very much so a consolidation period, right? So if we create our levels here, we can see that this could just be a consolidation area here for this one. I would say there's this level here and this level here. So we've been just trading down here at this level between this channel. So, consolidation is also a good point, but we'd want to be grabbing this at the lower level. So approximately at 580, potentially 712 where it's at right now. So really just follow up with this one. If we might break above this EMA level, if we do break above it, watch the SMA level next. And then after that, watch this resistance level at 925. So those are the levels I'd be watching for NNDM. The next one we're going to be taking a look at is Sklz. Got quite a bit this week that we're paying attention to just because there's a lot. So make sure that you guys are, being selective with which ones that you guys want to be interested in and which ones you want to be trading. So very similar setup, ended up selling off, falling wedge, and then we just ended up consolidating, ended up pushing up to the upside, broke above the SMA level, and then we ended up trading above it for some time, and then we ended up pushing a little bit below it, right? So that's what we're paying attention to. Currently, we are sitting at the support level at 1765. Same setup here with the RSI. So this one's another reason that this one caught my eye as well. Potentially, we might be bouncing up to potentially either SMA level or this previous resistance level. So either way, we're looking at approximately 14% profit potential. And the risk is, it's very clear where to manage the risk on this one, simply because we are at this support level already. So just managing risk probably here, I would say at about, 3% would be a healthy risk management strategy, and then a profit potential of about 13%. So 3-4%, 13%. The next one that we're going to be taking a look at is going to be MGM. Very similar setup here. MGM potentially might be selling off a little bit more. However, long-term, if we're taking a look at the big picture here, very consistent, strong trend that we've just been trending to the upside here with MGM. And as things reopen, things start getting kind of back to normal. I expect this to continue to head higher. So that's the reason I'm paying attention to MGM. We are here at the SMA level. So if we break out from the SMA level down up to previous levels, we're looking at about 8%, which is not a bad return. However, one thing I would note is we are starting to look like we might be getting rejected by this SMA level. We might return back to this 39.15 level. So that would be where I'd be paying attention for a potential entry, is about 39.30-ish. You probably get a better deal at that point. I don't think it's going to be a very huge correction. However, at least drop into 39. So I'd pay attention to that. You'd probably get a better entry. And you wouldn't even have to wait till 45.34. You'd be still at 12%, even at like $44. which would be a great exit. So the next one that you're going to want to pay attention to is going to be AIG. AIG, very, very similar to MGM, strong uptrend pattern, consistent. We like that. We've been trending above this SMA level for some time. We ended up breaking below it now. And then we ended up finding support here at this little red line here, which it lines with the volume profile level, the significant level on the volume profile level. And we ended up finding support at that point, which is no surprise. We ended up breaking above the EMA line today, and we have been pushing up to the upside. We do still have some room to run before we become oversold or overbought, my mistake, overbought, which would potentially align here with the SMA level, which wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of resistance there before heading higher or potentially coming back down to the support. So from current price points to the SMA level, we're looking at about 6% profit potential. Very interested in this one just because of the trend, very similar to MGM, right? So that's the setup here with AIG. The next one is going to be FSLY. So similarly, pushed back lower below the SMA line, been trading below the SMA line for some time, ended up pushing up to the upside above the SMA line, and we ended up coming down to retest this SMA line, right? So currently we're retesting it. What we're looking for is a bounce here on the SMA line. Once we see a bounce, that's going to be potential for heading to the upside. So just watching this one for now. Not too excited about this one. However, a great opportunity longer term. So make sure to add this to your watch list, or at least have this on one of your watch lists. That way you can follow up with it, and make sure to set alerts once you see it breaking out to the upside. The next one that we're going to be looking at is CAT. I'm liking this one in the weeks to come for sure. We have dividends coming up here at $1.11. That's up from last dividends, which were $1.03. We have earnings coming up here on the 30th at the end of this month. And then we ended up having this great setup that we're paying attention to here. Very consistent, strong uptrend pattern over the last, basically since November. And then we ended up seeing this pullback and found support at this level. And we've been trading, consolidating here sideways, which is a good thing, right? Because clearly we're finding support at this critical volume profile level, right? And then we're starting to look very good on the MACD. RSI, we are starting to potentially approach oversold or overbought territories, which would align here with this 224 level, $225, which would also align probably with this SMA level. So potentially we might head up to the upside here. We're looking at about, a 4 or 5% profit potential before we hit the SMA level, right? And that's potentially where we might see some rejection. However, if we do break higher, we're looking at approximately 10% profit potential. And then we are managing our risk here, obviously, at this support level here at 3.54%, I would say. So that's the setup here with CAT. I like this one. I like the setup. I like the pattern. I like the historic pattern to it as well. Next one's going to be Mpaa. Ended up breaking out today. Once again, this one has been trending above the SMA line for some time now. We ended up consolidating for some time now, and then we ended up dipping here over the last couple of weeks, probably 2 weeks, and then we ended up pushing and breaking above the EMA line today. We not only broke the EMA line today, we also broke above the SMA line today. We aren't oversold yet. We have a strong push of volume here, so potentially we're looking for this to play out on the week with potential momentum coming in, right? So we're looking at probably these levels up here. So we're looking at about 8% profit potential if the momentum continues on this one. So that's why this one's on my watch list. The next one is going to be Home Depot and Lowe's. So Home Depot and Lowe's, very similar setups. Ended up seeing a pullback here, correction after we hit highs of 345. And then we ended up pulling back, consolidating this level, ended up breaking back above the SMA line, this green line here. And we have been looking fairly good. We're, not very overbought. So we have room to run, potentially head back up to 345, which would be about another 6.7%. Plenty of room on the RSI. MACD is looking like it's setting up for that as well. And Lowe's is also similar, in nature to that. Very similar setup, pullback, consolidation, break above the SMA line. MACD is looking the same. RSI is looking the same. This one, we're looking at about 9% profit potential. So those are the two that we're looking at with that. The next one's going to be GPRO. Once again, today broke above the SMA line and the EMA line. So we like that. We ended up breaking above the EMA line, broke we haven't yet broke above the SMA line, but we're really on the verge of breaking it. A little bit more volume today than we had on Friday last week. So we're looking for a break above this SMA line, and then we're going to be watching this resistance level here at 1245. So we're looking at a profit potential of about 11% on this one. So that would be the exit here, close to, close to 1238, my bad, around that level. So don't be greedy. Make sure you're taking profits as it comes. It might not even hit 1235. It might hit, $11 or $12 and then come back down. So make sure that as it gets to closer to that resistance level, make sure you're upping your stop loss, make sure you're upping your risk management to, match that, and you're managing your trade as well. So that's why I'm paying attention to GoPro. The next one's going to be GOL. Huge pullback here over the last basically all of last month. We've just been pulling back. So we pulled back approximately 27% on this one, and now we are breaking above the EMA line here today. So we're paying attention to that, breaking above the EMA line. So we have that profit potential. What we're going to be paying attention to is this 8.8% profit that we could get if we come back up to this SMA level. We were trending above it, trading well, and then we broke below it, traded bearish, and then we broke above it again, traded bullish, and then we broke below, and we're trading bearish. And now it looks like we're starting to reverse here back up to the upside. Let's draw out our levels. This one's very interesting. I would say we have support or resistance at that level. We have support at that level. And then we also have, a resistance or a level here at this point, which is exactly where we ended up bouncing. So we ended up coming down here, broke above it, came down to this resistance level, bounced. This would be another level to pay attention to, probably on the way up as we break above the SMA line. So found support at this level. Oh, let's go back to that. Came back up, found resistance, broke down, had a hard time breaking down to the downside, came back down to this support level that we had from back here, came back up, had some trouble with the resistance, also lined up with the SMA, came back down, same support, resistance, had a hard time at the SMA level as well as this, this resistance level, ended up breaking it through that, broke up to the upside here, and then we ended up rolling up to 1145, came back down to the support level. So now on the way up, we're watching the SMA level here at 937, and we're watching 977 here at this level as well. So EMA break is the first good sign. We have plenty of room on the RSI. MACD's looking very good. I really like this one. This is one that I'm going to be paying attention to closely this week for sure. So that's what's going on here with GOL. The next one is going to be APPS. Got a few more guys and we're going to be done. Fairly large list, but I want to give you guys the opportunity to really see the variation of opportunities that we have, right? And then out of these, you can choose. I would say, just to help you see that potential there, right? Instead of trying to hunt these down on your own. Very similar setup, not the greatest setup, not as good as GOL. However, we pulled back, became oversold, pushed a little bit higher, didn't really break above the EMA line. We had a bit of a fake out and came back down. So we are starting to look good. RSI looks like it has plenty of room to run before we become overbought. I'd be watching this 69.22 level first, and then after that, I'd be watching 79.63 if we start pushing up to the upside here. I'd be watching this break above the EMA line for potential push to the upside. We're looking for more volume for this to happen, right? So as of right now, just want to watch. However, the profit potential is definitely there. We're looking at about 20% profit potential with a risk of about 3, 4, or 5%. So that's not bad. Definitely one to consider for sure. Digital Turbine. The next one is going to be WYNN, WYNN. Very nice setup. Uptrend, great pattern historically, and then we ended up seeing a pullback for the last basically month, and now we are potentially trying to break up to the upside. We're looking like we are heading for this EMA line. We haven't really quite broken it yet, but once we do break it, so pay attention to this, once we do break above this EMA line, that next level that we're going to be watching is going to be the SMA line, which is the volume profile level that we're interested in. That's about a 9.4, 10% profit potential. And then if we return to previous highs, we're looking at about 20% profit potential here on WYNN Resorts. This company's not going anywhere. So, I believe this recovery will be coming for sure. However, make sure that you're paying attention to these levels, managing your risk. The risk I'd be managing at would be 109.40, probably 109, about $109, which would align with 109, $108. That's about 3% risk. I mean, honestly, with the profit potential, 20% profit potential, I mean, I'd probably manage this at like 5%. But that's just me. That's my personal preferences. That's how I manage my risk, but that's up to you. So the next one that's going to be interesting is HOG, Harley Davidson. We did break above the EMA line today. We're looking for a push above the SMA line in this week. And we have plenty of room to run here on the MACD as well as the RSI. We have earnings coming up here on the 21st. So if we return from current price points to previous highs, that's about 12.68%. It's been doing very well lately. So, this one's very interesting for sure, especially when we're having a strong push like this to the upside. The next one, the last three that we're going to take a look at is LMND. Here, finding support at the SMA line, not an A+ setup, and it looks like we might have a little bit more of a push to the downside. So just keep this one on watch, just because we've had such a strong pullback here. You can't even see the percentage here. Just because we have such a strong pullback here, this one's very attractive. We're about half off. So that's what we're looking at, 50% drawdown. So we had even a bigger drawdown here. This one was huge. This was much bigger than 50% drawdown. This was about 72%, 70%, and then we ended up recovering a solid, 30. Well, from that point, we ended up recovering about another 50%, or another 100%. Actually, we went from $56 to basically $112. So that's the setup there. So we ended up pulling back here to this SMA line, potential, upside to the upside. So this is the reason I'm paying attention to this one. This is probably more so of a longer term play, but we're looking about 45% if we head back up to this 160 level. However, managing risk right below this SMA line if you make an entry, so about 6%. But I would probably wait off on this one just because we might, come back down a little bit lower, if not drop back down to the support level down here. Just one to add to your watch list if you don't already have it and haven't been paying attention to it. The next one is JBL. JBL, strong, consistent uptrend pattern. This is what we like to see. And we ended up seeing a little bit of a pullback here. Mostly the RSI and the MACDs would caught my eye on this one because we have, a little bit of potential here. We're looking about a basic 3-4% that we can make on this one. Very consistent uptrend, one that's not very volatile, not one to really be worried or stressed out about, really. We just came off this support here at the SMA line, which we've consistently been bouncing on here. So we're just coming off of it. So I see if throughout this week, potentially a great play just to hold throughout that entire week. And by that time, we'd probably reach oversold or overbought levels. So that's the reason I'm paying attention to this one. Very consistent, not really something to worry about when you invest in something like this or trade this. The next one's going to be WWE, and this is going to be the last one. Huge pullback here. We have been trading above this SMA line, and we ended up coming up, finding support at the SMA, pushing up, holding SMA, pushing up, came down, holding SMA line. So I feel like, potentially we're going to be recovering another probably approximately 15%, another push up to the upside, either this week or next week or in the weeks to come. But definitely oversold. Very great setup on the MACD. Strong volume profile level. This, is going to hold this level in my opinion. So I see that this is going to, once we break above the EMA line and the SMA line, we're going to see another push. At least we're looking for another 10%, I would say. So this is the last one. This is the final one. So once again, guys, if you guys found any value in this, make sure to smash the like button, share this video with a friend. That way they can also get these opportunities and make sure that they're aware of these opportunities. And if you're not subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys on next week's Stock Talk video.